Hi guys, so the last book I read was the narratisation of God of War, the video game. I believe it was God of War 5. Now I've never played any of the God of War games, but this book was written by J.M. Barlog and Corey Barlog and was narrated by Alistair Duncan. So, I actually believe he may be one of the characters in the game. I think he plays Mimir, who is a storyteller. So that's quite an interesting choice if that's correct, and I think works quite well. This book was a bit of a gamble. My assumption was, and I'm sure many people would feel the same way, that the book would not be that great. In the same way you often get film adaptations of video games being fairly awful, I was kind of assuming something similar for this. And at the beginning, it didn't seem like I was going to be proved wrong. But as the book went on, especially towards the end, I really felt that it came to its own. And perhaps it was just my personal misgivings that gave me that kind of off feeling at the beginning. So the book follows the Greek god of war, Kratos, who I think he took the mantle from Ares, and his son Atreus. The previous God of War games took place in Greece as Kratos goes and kills all the gods. I've never played any of them, but they were always quite well respected. This book takes place after a time skip and is in the realm of the Norse gods. So the time skip has allowed for Kratos to grow and change, and now he's trying to deal with being a father to his son Atreus, and that's really the crux of the story, and I think is the strongest part, is the dynamic between father and son, and the the growing of that bond, and how Kratos fears that his son may become similar to him. The interplay between characters was the strongest part of the book, and I think that probably translated best from the cinematic parts of the game itself. What I think is maybe one of the problems with things like this, these kind of adaptations, is that a lot of what brings the game together is the visual spectacle and the gameplay, the amount of, you can upgrade your character and you can fight different enemies, and that doesn't translate very well to the written word, or at least not in this story. I was worried it wasn't going to work. However, the characters themselves were strong enough to carry it. My one big critique that I do think was an actual problem was that I didn't feel like I often knew what the environments they were in looked like. I don't know if there wasn't an awful lot of time spent on describing characters and locations, at least their appearances, because of the fact that many people will have come from the video game, and myself. Like, it did help that I had seen some of these bits and pieces from the game, but if I hadn't, I think I would have been quite lost, and it really was maybe the weakest part of the book. That being said, it did, especially towards the end, with the climax between all the characters and the fulfillment of the promise that the entire story is based around, it did come out quite well. Overall, this book was okay. I wouldn't recommend this particularly to anyone. If you have an interest in God of War, it's probably worth it, but if you're coming into this blind like I was, I think there are other options out there that are probably better. It's unfortunate that this didn't quite make the cut, but I would say that you would probably know going into this if the subject matter was going to intrigue you, and if that is the case, there may just be better options that are written from the ground up to be a novel. So I would recommend perhaps looking into similar time periods or similar fantasy books, but maybe leaving this one on the shelf.